Do you know who I saw? Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Jeffrey.
He shoved my face up against this glass. Cigarettes, and razor blades, and sex. It was terrifying. It makes sense that they would have haunted me because it's all true. But of course, nobody believes it. And nobody ever will. Because that's how good we are at making things disappear. Do you understand now?
What's up, guys? Your boy Benny. The old world is collapsing quickly and in short order all around us. And while that may be terrifying in some regard, it's also inspiring and really neat to see some of the biggest Hollywood actors deciding to break rank and start to really speak out about what their lives have been inside of that system. Those systems, of course, are hemorrhaging people like Diddy, people like Cat Williams, the number of celebrities and athletes who are starting to just break and speak freely. It's very exciting. And the truth shall set you free and bring these people into the light. I am talking about, of course, the recent interview with Kevin Spacey on Piers Morgan's channel. I encourage you to watch the whole thing. It is 90 minutes long, and it is every single minute extremely interesting, shocking, sad, and unnerving a bit. Piers Morgan, of course, able to have these conversations because he has his own independent show, and able to produce these conversations because, well, he just doesn't have corporate overlords, right, that are controlling what he's doing and what he's saying. It's kind of awesome. And you can just roll. You can just go with it. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the Kevin Spacey interview. Kevin Spacey breaks down as he faced debts of millions. We'll get to that clip. But we're going to focus for a moment on something that really made a ton of news about this interview, which is the Epstein Island interest. Kevin Spacey very famously went to multiple events with Jeffrey Epstein, organized by Jeffrey Epstein and his team. Went with Bill Clinton on Epstein's jet all the way to Africa. Although he claims he didn't know who Epstein was until 2015. Do you believe that? Spacey appeared to contradict himself while explaining his past with Epstein. It makes you wonder if the guy is completely and totally full of shit, lying. You know, there's actually like plenty of images, like here's Kevin Spacey sitting next to Bill Clinton at one of these creepy humanitarian dinners in Africa. There's also images of Kevin Spacey and Ghislaine Maxwell, who of course was, the fixer for Jeffrey Epstein. It's like hard to see a photo like this and assume that Kevin Spacey didn't know exactly what he was getting himself into. But before we sort of tear through all the evidence of what Kevin Spacey did or didn't do, here is a newly humbled, apparently totally impoverished Kevin Spacey after multiple lawsuits against him for indecent and lewd behavior, talking about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
2015, I started seeing reports online, things on my Twitter account that I had flown to this guy Jeffrey Epstein's island and I had abused young girls. And I was like, I mean, if you'd asked me in 2015, maybe even if you'd asked me in 2002, did I know a guy named Jeffrey Epstein? I probably would have said no. Well, of course, I have since learned who he is. And I have since been able to go back and find out that the airplane that we flew on for this humanitarian mission was owned by Jeffrey Epstein. And to then learn, oh, he was actually on some of those flights. And this Maxwell woman was on some of those flights. I didn't know him. I've never spent any time with him. I was with the Clinton Foundation people. That's who I was with. Now, what I understand is that he didn't start to be investigated until 2005 by authorities in Florida. So here's what I can tell you. This Maxwell woman, she was one of many people who sat down next to me in that throne room. I have no relationship with her. I had no relationship with him. I mean, He's not my friend. I'm not a confidant. I've never spent time with him. And interestingly, I will say this. I was very fortunate that President Clinton introduced me a lot of business leaders in London because he knew I was coming to the Old Vic. And I developed relationships with Robert Earl, Pula Ladobovich, Robert Earl, a lot of wonderful people, Sir Richard Caring, people who supported the work that we did at the Old Vic and gave money to us. Do you know who I never asked for anything? Was Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't want to be around this guy because I felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. And we were like, who is this guy? So I will say this.
There were young girls on those flights.
There were young girls on those flights, yeah.
There were young girls on the flights. Now, of course, that matches with the reporting that we know about those flights. I think the greater questions remain for Bill Clinton, frankly, in all of this. But what we know about these flights is that, yes, they were staffed. First off, the Lolita Express was named after a movie about an inappropriate relationship with an underage girl. You know, that's Lolita. You know, that's where it comes from, actually. And then two, they've actually interviewed some of the young women who were paid to be on those flights and massage, if you can believe that's all that happened, the clientele of Jeffrey Epstein.
Air hostess on board the notorious Lolita Express, the billionaire's private jet at the center of a sex scandal making lurid headlines across the world. Sleazy Wall Street tycoon Jeffrey Epstein used the Lolita Express to ferry a bevy of beautiful young women. Among the passengers, former President Bill Clinton and Britain's Prince Andrew.
On almost every trip that I did go on, there were young girls around.
In this Inside Edition exclusive, Shantae Davies takes us inside the secret world of the Lolita Express, named for the controversial book and movie about a professor's infatuation with an underage girl. Shantae made several trips on Jeffrey Epstein's infamous Lolita Express. She says she was one of several young, attractive women hired to travel around the world, giving massages or yoga instruction to Epstein and his rich and powerful friends. When Shantae was hired, she was a struggling 22-year-old actress. She once played a lingerie model in a movie called Exposed.
These designs are really great.
Shantae worked as a masseuse, but says she never had sex with Epstein.
Did you ever think that maybe more was going on than simple massages?
Looking back, of course.
Okay, all right, well. Sure. It's amazing the defense is always, yeah, I knew something really creepy was happening. Something really awful was happening, and I did nothing. It's always the defense. The defense is, yeah, totally. This guy was a total creep. There's all these young girls. They were all trapped on this plane. They were forced to give these old guys massages and who knows what else in the back room. And then I did nothing about it. Right? That's always the defense. It's incredible. Ghislaine Maxwell is the only person who's still alive, really, in this whole racket, at least that we know of, who's been named. She's in federal prison right now. And here she is in a throne room with Kevin Spacey. You can see, Kevin Spacey talking about the throne room photo. What is this photo exactly? Here's a fact check we found on this. Is Kevin Spacey, Ghislaine Maxwell in Buckingham Palace? So apparently the photo has been circulating since 2020. It was featured in the New York Post. The photo was published exclusively by the UK newspaper, the Daily Telegraph. While Newsweek could not independently verify how the circumstances of the photo came about, source who spoke with the British paper had claimed that Spacey was invited to Buckingham Palace to tour at a tour organized with Prince Andrew in 2002. A Telegraph said Maxwell came along as a friend of the Duke. Okay. And here you can see them with Virginia Giuffre, who was a young underage trafficked woman. This is somebody who Prince Andrew has had to settle out of court with because of all manner of unseemly horrors. You can assume that happened there. And so, yeah, Prince Andrew giving him a tour of Buckingham Palace. That actually stands to reason. And so, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think Kevin Spacey's telling the truth here, saying he doesn't know Jeffrey Epstein, but then talking about Jeffrey Epstein's arrest records In 2015, he says, I wouldn't even know who Jeffrey Epstein was. But now, like, I'm flying on his plane, and I know about his arrests in 2005, 10 years earlier. Doesn't make any sense. Kevin Spacey tells you he's been to Epstein's island without saying he's been to Epstein's island. Talking about the young girls, right? Is he covering up? I mean, he's an actor. Is he pretending? Is he trying to CYA? Well, we've presented the evidence. You can see right here. I mean, this is the trip, and more importantly, this was all done. This is all done on Epstein's dime and on Epstein's plane, with these young girls on the plane. Kevin Spacey. So I don't know. I guess I just don't buy it. Right? I don't buy it. Kevin Spacey had a strange admission though. During all that he thought that the number of young underage girls would damage Bill Clinton in the future. Boy, was he right. Right? Like Bill Clinton will until his dying day, will never be able to escape, and rightfully so, the questions about Epstein Island. Kevin Spacey, on the other hand, maybe because he's talking about stuff like this, or because they know he can't be trusted, has who knows? I mean, has been completely ruined, apparently, and is now totally impoverished, and even having his house taken from him. He broke down in tears during the interview. This is the other clip that's making a ton of news.
Where do you live now?
Well, it's funny you asked that question, because this week, where I have been living in Baltimore, is being foreclosed on. My house is being sold at auction.
Really?
So I have to go back to Baltimore and put all my things in storage.
Really?
So the answer to that question is, I'm not quite sure where I'm going to live now, but I've been in Baltimore for since we started shooting House of Cards there.
So how long is that?
I moved there in 2012.
So this has been your home for 12 years?
Well, not this particular place, but this place has been my home and Evan and Lucy's home since 2016.
Why is it being foreclosed?
Because I can't pay the bills that I owe.
Are you facing bankruptcy?
Been a couple of times when I thought I was going to file, but we've managed to sort of dodge it, at least as of today.
How much money do you have?
None.
Really?
Well, I mean, you have some sense of legal bills.
Yeah.
I still owe a lot of legal bills that I have not been able to pay.
You're actually in debt?
Yes.
Do you mind me asking how much you owe?
It's considerable.
Millions?
Many millions, yes. The house itself is many millions.
What are you going to do?
Get back on the horse. Get back on the horse.
So, yeah. I mean, on some level, I guess, it's kind of shocking to see this fall from grace. On another level, like, why didn't you speak out about Epstein when you were using his plane? Or in the middle, I look back, there's no articles about Kevin Spacey saying, why are all these underage girls here? I refuse to be on this trip. There's too many underage girls. There's no question. There's nothing like that in the record. Again, I'm like, this is the constant defense is the Nuremberg defense. I just following orders. I don't know. I just saw everybody. I just saw a bunch of bad stuff happening, and I didn't do anything because I didn't want to rock the boat. Yeah. I'm not gonna buy it. And if you're one of those people, like there's bad stuff happening in the world, and you're part of it, then you're complicit. And Kevin Spacey's one of those people. Let me know what you think in the comments. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe to bring every single Epstein Island client to justice. See ya.